Not yet,
Okay,
but you have your form.
okay, all right. All right, I use this. Okay, I call to order the regular Board of Education meeting on November 20th, 2025 at 6:31 PM in the boardroom of Oak Park in River Forest High School. Please call the roll.
Mr. Grossman,
Here.
Dr. Liddell. Here. Mr. Arkin. Mr. Burks,
Here.
Dr. Livingston, Mr. Brenhorst,
Here.
and Ms. Rosalie.
Here. I move to enter closed session for the purposes of discussing the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, and or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district and independent contractors and specific volunteers, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. However, a meeting to consider an increase in compensation to a specific employee of a public body that is subject to the Local Government Wage Increase Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and posted and held in accordance with this act. Collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, litigation when action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be reported and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. And discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act, whether for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by section 2.06. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Dr. Liddell,
Yes.
Mr. Arkin, Mr. Burks,
Yes.
Mr. Brisbane,
Yes.
Mr. Brenhorst.
Yes.
Dr. Livingston, Ms. Rosalie.
Yes. One moment.
Okay.
Okay. Again, good evening, everyone. We are going to reconvene open session. And we get to start with one of my favorites, our student showcase. So Dr. Johnson.
All right, we are excited. We are very excited to show this flight of top athletic performance. And so I'm going to bring up our principal to get this party started.
Good evening, everyone. I have the distinct pleasure for stepping in for Nicole in order to introduce to you and recognize 4 groups who have gone to as state qualifiers in their fall sports. Girls swim and dive, boys cross country, girls cross country, and girls tennis. Here first to introduce his athletes is head girls swim coach Clyde Lundgren.
Okay, I'm gonna bring the girls up as well. Since Nicole's not here, I'm just gonna say whatever I want. I'm just kidding. We come here with great respect and gratitude for what you all do to make what we do possible. So just want to make sure I say that. Thank you so much for the opportunity and continued support. I was just at Hinsdale Central about 2 hours ago and sort of looking at their spot and just imagining what our pool is going to look like. And we can accomplish what we've done so much over the years with the facilities that we have, just all the more eager to get into the new spaces and continue the traditions that we've had and hopefully the excellence that we continue to enjoy now. So I'm going to turn it over to them, but before we do, we got a little video representation here. And my goal with this is to give you all a window into kind of our spaces. And, you know, because you're here and doing what you do best, and perhaps you don't get to sporting it. So I was just hoping that we could just have a little window into the experience a little bit. So it's about a 3-minute video. Thanks, Lisa.
Is that Dr.
Maybe can you go that way? It's like 15 minutes.
Is there audio to this or?
Yeah, there should be sound. There's like a little sound behind.
Is that? Hold on.
All right,
Mm-hmm.
Give me 1 minute.
thanks.
Aaron, let's click Aaron.
Take it back to the beginning.
If I could get to it. Guess that was my bad.
Way to go.
Go to the beginning, all the way to. Thanks. Okay. Play.
I only couldn't be here just because. This shows the qualifying race, so 3 or 4 girls. They were in, then we relay, rest 3. First event that beats last year, 4 girls that made it narrowly in this, different event, kind of committed to each other. That they were going to make it this year, so they were on mission 365 days a day to get to the states. So what you'll see, the Harlem race over, and then against the awesome back. You'll see this sort of spectrum of motion of a couple of girls and original bees, and there's this exhilaration. And then Ava has some emotions, I don't know. Like, I'm like, what is she crying about? But it just hopefully gives you all a sense of what they put into it, what the sound means, making yourself vulnerable, put it all on the line. No guarantees of success, but it's really special. Fenwick in there, it's always nice to get a win against them. In Texas, which is hope you're up along that. So. It's that exhaustion. All out there. There's that was the moment that got him here, and so congratulations. Take a moment of your time and just share a couple of thoughts from their perspective on seats. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so I'm Bobby, I did fly. Oh.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Evie, I did butterfly on the relay, so that was the third leg. And I think that something that was really important to all of us, just coming back last year and after just missing the cut, we were like Coach Clyde said, we were just kind of like, that was our goal to make that cut. So it was extremely special to all of us to not only make that cut, but then to be able to practice another week with just all of my best friends and enjoy the last season that we'll all get together because we're all seniors. My second UV, that was definitely my favorite memory from the season. And this year, talking about kind of team dynamics, half of varsity was new. And I feel like that brought really something special to this year. And after my 4 years, I've grown to see our team as more than just a team. It's really a community of strong, passionate, and persevering women that I love to spend my time with. And I believe that Coach Clyde is an integral part of why our team is so special. His dedication and his reminders to push ourselves to work hard, not just to get a time workout, which is a great part of working hard, but to push ourselves and make ourselves frontal, as he likes to say. To expand on what Ava said, like swimming with Clyde for the last 4 years, like you really get to know him. And he's like unlike any other coach we had. So when he gives pieces of advice, I think all of us take it like very seriously and we take it to heart. And one of the best pieces of advice that he has gave me, like in a swimming aspect, was you understand that each race is more than 1 to 2. It's just 1 to 2 minutes of your life. So make those minutes count and impress yourself. I carry that mindset with me every time I race, but even outside of swimming, I take that into just everyday activities like school related or anything else. So you're gonna feel pressure a lot of the time, but if you use like that mentality and that approach that Coach Clyde said, that it's gonna last for only this little bit of time, I think that's something that all of us learned and we can apply even outside of swimming. So we wanna thank him for just being the coach he is. And as a diver, we hadn't had a pool, so we always, like after school, we would go travel to RV. And honestly, I think that was like one of my favorite parts because we really got time to connect with our teammates and like become like a little family.
Ladies, thanks so much
Yeah.
for those great words. Ladies and gentlemen on the board, thank you for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And our next coach who's coming to the mic will be for state qualifiers and assistant boys cross country, Coach Stephen Trey.
Evening. So we coaches routinely at the end of our seasons, when we give our summaries of successes, we always end with, a school motto, those things that are best. And to be honest, sometimes when I'm reading it or writing it, it rings truer than others. I think it rings particularly true for me tonight. This young man, Yanni Raptor, he and I came into our cross country program at the same time, 3 years ago. And seeing him progress over the last 3 years from, a member of our team to making our varsity team, to being a strong contributor to our varsity team, to being our leader, to being an individual state qualifier. I'm not gonna give you your whole resume, but this year, it was all conference, it was all regional, an individual qualifier to the state cross country meet, which is not a meet you're supposed to go as an individual. It's very, very difficult to get one of those spots. Actually, Dr. Johnson, you know better than most. In cross country, it's sort of a truism that after the first mile of a 3-mile race, the places don't really change. You kind of end up where you end up. But at each of the last 2 state cross country meets, Yanni has passed at least half the field. And there is a relentlessness to this young man, and a relentless positivity and a relentless desire to work that I'm really in awe of. I love coaching, and I love working with all our athletes. But as I'm here tonight paying tribute to this young man, I think it might be some time before I feel this level of pride in what one of our young people has accomplished. So to Yanni, I just want to say thank you very much. It's really been an honor, and you've done a great job. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Coach Traffic. Next, our girls cross-country coaches could not be with us tonight, but I would like to present in their absence, Miss Violet Schnitzline, who I'd like to come up so I can read what her coaches said about her season. Welcome and congratulations. Violet capped her 4-year cross-country career at OPRF as an individual state qualifier. In her final race as a Husky, she earned the right to call herself one of the best in the state. Her 29th place finish moved her to 7th on the school's all-time list at historic Detweiler Park. Throughout the season, Violet led the pack, finishing first for the Huskies in every race she ran. In the tradition of earning varsity points in team races, Violet was undefeated. The skills she honed throughout the season put her in position to race with the best at the WSC conference meets, where she finished in 8th place. The regional and sectional meets continued this trend as Violet pushed her limits down to her time and raced bravely to a 13th place sectional finish. Violet accepted the challenges and the privilege of racing in a competitive WSC championship race and in the fastest sectional meet in the state. Her reward was getting to train 1 more week and to race 1 final time. Please join me in congratulating Violet on a great capstone season. And then next, I would like to present Ms. Clara Lau from girls tennis. Clara? Clara's joining me so that she can hear what her head girls tennis coach, Coach Galuzzo, had to say about her. Clara is a 4th-year varsity player who has played singles and doubles each season. She had her best year as a senior, starting with a few singles matches early, then settling in as part of a doubles team with junior Ava Leibovitz, who could not be here tonight. Clara quickly became our most efficient doubles player, playing her deuce court position from the baseline and at the net with equal parts aggression and finesse. At number 1 doubles, playing every other team's best, they were 16-12. On our tournament Saturdays, they helped our team to place 3rd out of 8 at Deerfield, 6th place out of 16 at Prospect, and 7th place out of 32 at Buffalo Grove. They completed a tough conference tournament draw in 4th place and similarly difficult sectionals draw in third place. At the state tournament, they won a first round match, then lost to the top seed and eventual champion in the second round. Our other qualifier who could not be here tonight is Lucy Stein. Lucy bested her first 2 finishes at state with a 4th place medal this season. She was 36-4, competing 4 out of 5 tournaments she played this season as a champion. Ava and Lucy have 1 more season with us, and we congratulate Claire on her best season as an OPRF Husky tennis player. Please join me in congratulating her.
So I didn't expect to be speaking tonight, so I don't have anything prepared, but I'd like just to speak from my heart, really, to thank my coach and my teammates for this last best season. It was definitely my favorite and my most successful. My 2 coaches, Coach Luzzo and Coach John Woolidge. John has known me since I was probably 11 years old, and Coach has known me since I was a freshman, and they really witnessed my evolution and have helped me since then. And I want to thank my 2 teammates that couldn't be here tonight. Well, Lucy, we all know that she is just such a great player. She's 4th in state, and we know she's going to do great things in college and beyond. And Ava, I'm not sure if she wants to continue playing in college, but I know she'll succeed in whatever she chooses to do. Thank you very much for honoring me.
All of our fall state qualifiers on an amazing finish to the season. Go Huskies.
That was great hearing about all the accomplishments and how well everyone's done. So glad we could recognize some of our students. And now we'll move to our student council liaison report. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to share this month's update on what's been happening around our school, from major student events to club activities to what student council has been working on to support our community. We started this month with our first athletic signing of the year. This is always a big moment for our student athletes as they officially commit to their colleges. This year we brought in a professional photographer, which really elevated the ceremony and gave families high quality keepsakes. The environment was incredibly supportive, and it was great to see how much pride the community showed for our athletes. Moreover, the girls basketball team hosted their Husky Mania Night. This event focuses on getting younger kids involved with the program earlier on through fun competitions and games. Each level of their basketball program was showcased, and the crowd loved watching the varsity team scrimmage against the coaches. The team is hoping to grow the event next year by bringing in more of the community and more high school students. Historically, this event used to be connected to the boys program, but the girls felt their voices were not being heard, so they created their own night. Next, the PALS, Pan-Asian Leadership Society Club, held their PALSgram sales, offering bags filled with cultural goodies like Asian candies, stickers, origami paper, and a personalized kind message. They did an amazing job organizing the bags and publicizing the sale, and turnout was strong. They're aiming to boost sales even more next time, looking for ways to increase profit. The Enviro Club launched a school-wide bottle cap drive. Students are collecting plastic bottle caps that will be used to create a unique sustainability-themed mural. The goal is not only to produce art, but also to raise awareness about recycling and responsible waste practices. This month was full of club collaborations. The Enviro Club and Fashion Club are partnering to host a campus their store tomorrow night, combining sustainability with student creativity and fashion. The clubs Mina, Blue, and Aspira hosted a Know Your Rights informational meeting last Thursday. A local attorney led the session to help students understand their legal rights and what to do in real-world scenarios. It's been great to see clubs joining forces to make a bigger impact. Lastly, Student Council just finished writing personalized handwritten thank you cards for all teachers and staff to celebrate Thanksgiving. This has been a meaningful tradition for us, and it's always well received by the teachers. We're also in the planning stages of an event called Husky Trivia Night, which will replace the winter dance we did last year. The plan includes bringing in a DJ to host the trivia and setting up food vendors while teams compete against each other for prizes.
We're continuing our tradition of excellence assembly, where we recognize OPRF alumni who have gone on to do great things. We've narrowed down the list of people we want to honor, and we're currently in the process of reaching out to them. And that wraps up this month's report. Thank you so much for listening, and happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Johnson, over to you.
Okay. Happy lengthy list of items to include my superintendent's announcements tonight. Some of it we've heard already, but we'll cover it more or less. So here it is. Congratulations to our student athletes who qualified to compete at their state tournaments. Girls golfer Nadia Quintana, girls tennis players Claire Lau, Ava Woods, and Lucy Stein, girls cross country runner Violet Schneisman, boys cross country runner Yanni Raptor, and girls swimming dive athletes Haley Tony, Edie Hasselblad, Kylie Miller, and Ava. Announcing now our first quarter Student of the Quarter award recipients: Cora Brown, Lily Merrick, Maya Davis, Simon Brucker, Max Leverard-Mas, Sarah Hannenberg-Ruiz, Jalen Hammersley, Miriam Butler, Anna Castillo, Nick Hoffman, and Simone Canzona and Zoe Pett. Congratulations to Mike Renner, the first recipient of the newly renamed Eddie Sitzman Award, honoring a community integrated transition education or SITE graduate who passed away this summer. The quarterly award recognizes students who go above and beyond in demonstrating the values that matter most in our school community: effort, kindness, leadership, persistence, and determination. Congratulations, Nikki. Kudos to 16-year-old OPRF junior and fashion entrepreneur Matthew Bell, whose brand 14th Pharaoh Apparel was featured in a runway show at the DuSable Museum during Chicago Fashion Week. Congratulations also to the 17 Huskies who earned the prestigious AP Capstone Diploma. This honor recognizes students who completed both AP Seminar and AP Research, producing a 5,000-word academic paper, and passed at least 4 additional AP exams. This is OPRF's first graduating group from the AP Capstone program, launched by our science division in 23-24. From the class of 26, it includes Evelyn Cultura, Ida Elder, Mateo Harrell, and Finnegan Lutz. From the class of 2025, Connor Chinovsky, Franklin Gilfillan, Ren Goodfriend, Lada Harris, William Kiggy, Lev Caballo Hummel, Lero Martinez Santos, Samantha Manconi, Juan Rosado, Liam Schweitzer, and Duke Walsh. Congratulations also to girls flag football senior Julia Henderson on being selected for the Illinois All-State Flag Football Team. Julia's All-Star honor places her among the top 0.1% of high school flag football players in the state of Illinois. Congratulations to all the 213 seniors named as Illinois Student Assistance Commission, otherwise known as ISAC, 2026-2027 State Scholar Program finalists. Each year, roughly 25% of our graduating class receives this honor compared to approximately 10% of graduating seniors across Illinois. And finally, congratulations to the OPRF speech team for kicking off their new season with 3 varsity first place award winners at the 7th annual York Royal Court Invitational earlier. Max Webster in informative speaking, Maura Shigavane for original comedy, and Ruby Durgan for original oratorio. Congratulations to all of the incredible accomplishments from our Husky family. It's been an incredibly ambitious start of the school year, incredibly busy November. So, congrats everybody.
Sounds like it. Thank you. Ms. Evan, for your status?
6 submitted for as well.
We're going to now move into our October recognition. November recognition, because we are almost to Thanksgiving. So today we're pleased to continue our employee recognition program for the 25-26 school year. And the recognition is sponsored by Oak Park Bank, a Wintrust Community Bank. And do we have Chris Ribbon here tonight?
We do not.
So we will move on, and so we'll move on to our first recognition.
First, we'd like to congratulate Eric Renteria, World Language Teacher, who was selected as the Teacher of the Month. Here's some of the highlights from the nominations received for Eric. As an extraordinary English teacher, learning and Spanish language arts teacher, Eric Renteria demonstrates exceptional dedication to his students, providing academic, emotional, and cultural support. fosters trust, safety, and inclusion, consistently going beyond expectations to ensure every learner's success. Congratulations again.
I promise I don't have a long speech. I'm fine. Good evening. It is a true honor to stand before you today as Teacher of the Month. As a former student exactly 10 years ago, I know so such a long time. I want to thank this community and the great teachers at this school. They created a space where I felt like I belonged, a place where I truly felt welcome. Every single day, teachers who turned a student who could not read or write into a teacher who could be nominated for this award. Some of the best teachers, and I truly mean this, are in the school. One of them who couldn't be here today, Kelly Diaz, had the most absolute pleasure of teaching me for 3 years. Unfortunately, she could not be here tonight, but I do want to thank her personally, not only as a friend, colleague, and mentor, but even as an adult, she still teaches me daily. I can never repay what she has done for me, nor can I replace her as the best teacher in this school, but I can pay it forward to my future students. To Claudia Sangoon and my world language colleagues who accepted me and gave me an opportunity after 4 years of being overlooked by the history department. Last but not least, I want to express my deepest gratitude to my exceptional students. They have been an important part of my journey. I learned just as much as they learned from me, allowing me to teach them and help them navigate life. They call me the GOAT, the greatest of all time, but the hard work they put makes them 10 times the GOAT I'll ever be. Thank you.
There you go.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Hold on. All right. Sweet cheese. All right.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Oh, thanks. Congratulations again to Eric. Thank you.
Now we'd like to extend congratulations to our Employee of the Month, Andrea Bell, Campus Safety and Support Officer and Locker Room Attendant. Here are some of the highlights from the nominations received for Andrea. Andrea Bell goes above and beyond for students, supporting their safety, well-being, and daily needs with kindness, strength, and a smile. She's dependable, compassionate, and truly a pillar of care. Congratulations, Andrea. Are you here?
She's here.
Oh, she's here.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, one and all, my goodness. Thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I just can't believe I'm here. Thank you for recognizing all of my accomplishments that I've accomplished here in these 28 years plus. And I really have to thank all of my colleagues, my safety and support family, and a special thanks to my colleague that initiated this, Miss Heidi May. She initiated this and everyone is like, why she haven't gotten this already? And so everybody just clinged on. But I really have to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really, really thank you. These students this has been a different journey for me, working with the students. And I really got a roller coaster ride when I was able to work as a TA last summer. And I really enjoyed that. And so I think I'm gonna go back this summer because I enjoyed it so much. So with that being said, I wanna say thank you all. Thank you so much. And you all have a great Thanksgiving.
And you're very good. We'd also like to extend congratulations to our guest teacher of the month, Kawani Husband. Is Kawani here?
She's online.
Oh, okay. Well, let me share some of the highlights from the nominations received for Kiwani. Kiwani Husband has gone above and beyond mastering course content and building meaningful relationships with students while seamlessly stepping in during a colleague extended leave. Her dedication and impact are outstanding. And Kiwani, is there anything you'd like to say?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Yes, I do want to say thank you. First, I was so surprised when Principal Parker walked in to recognize me as guest teacher of the month. I truly appreciate being recognized as guest teacher. Every day, I just try to show up and support our students and make things a little easier for my team. I appreciate the staff, the students, of course, for making this work so meaningful to me. And I just want to thank you all for recognizing me.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
We will get you your certificate.
Thank you.
All right. And now we'll move to public comments. Ms. Evans, are there any public comments? Okay, so no public comments. And with that, we will move to the consent agendas on our items on our agenda. Are there any consent items that board members would like to pull for discussion?
I'd like to pull item E,
Item E.
which is the marching band donation.
Okay, we will pull that and discuss. Are there any others? Okay. So I move to approve the consent items as follows. Item A, approval of open and closed meeting minutes of October 23rd and November 6th, 2025. A declaration that the audio tapes of the closed session minutes of January 2024 be destroyed and the closed session minutes of January 1, 1986 through October 23rd, 2025 shall remain closed except for the redacted closed session of October 4th, December 13th, and 21st, 1983, and January 14th, 23rd, and 28th, 1984. B, approval of the personnel recommendation, including new hires and transfers as amended in closed session. C, approval of an updated resolution designating the authorization depositories for the 2025-26 school year. D, approval of the FY26 school maintenance project grant. F, to approve the naming recognition for the Little Theater and recognition of the Armstrong family. The Armstrong family has pledged $100,000 for this 10-year recognition. G, approval of the September 2025 Treasurer's Report as presented. H, approval of the September 2025 Finance Report as presented. And I, approval of the October and November 2025 check disbursements and financial resolutions, including the payroll resolutions for December 2025. May I have a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Grindhouse,
Yes.
Mr. Gertz,
Yes.
Dr. Livingston,
Yes.
Dr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Lisbon,
Yes.
Mr. Arkin,
Yes.
and Ms. Langevin.
Yes. Yes. Okay, and now we will move for discussion to item E, to accept with gratitude the donation of $10,000 to the Oak Park and River Forest High School Marching Band.
Thank you. As a former marching band parent, I just wanted to make sure we took a moment to acknowledge this really generous gift to the fabulous marching band program. So I wanted to say as a parent and a board member and a community member that we're so fortunate to have a generous community that supports all of our programs across the board. So thank you to the anonymous donor.
And I appreciate Kat when you're pulling it, because as also another former marching band parent, it is a fantastic program. It makes space for all our kids who want to be part of it, and it's wonderful. I shared with several of you that my oldest son is a marching band My younger one says, sorry, I'm not joining marching band, so you will not be a band parent again. But I do, but it's a great community, so thank you for taking the time to acknowledge this. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, so I move that we accept, with lots of gratitude, the donation of $10,000 to the Oak Park and River Forest High School Marching Band. Second. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
No, roll call.
Oh, sorry, roll call, thank you, Lisa.
Mr. Hurst,
Yes.
Dr. Livingston,
Yes.
Mr. Brisbane,
Yes.
Mr. Arkin,
Yes.
Dr. Odell,
Yes.
Mr. Bramless,
Yes.
and Ms. Winsley.
Yes, thank you. Okay. I also move to approve the following action items. A, to accept the donation of $1 million from the Oak Park and River Forest High School Imagine Foundation to reimburse expenses for Project 2 as presented. May I have a second?
Second.
Discussion or? Any discussion or questions?
We are fortunate to have two members from the Imagine Foundation Board here. This is the evening of philanthropy. This is just lovely. Lynn Cabanessa and Heidi Lilly are here to present to us the donation. This is the fourth such donation that you have presented to this district. And we've all said in various ways over the past several months and years how grateful we are that you are able to do this on such a regular basis. And more importantly, our whole community benefits from this work and your efforts just so much. So thank you so much. And if there's anything you'd like to share.
I would really quick, just to say, as much as we would love to accept all the gratitude for this, obviously it's the donors who really are making this happen, so thank you to all of our donors. And it was so great to see the student athletes here tonight, especially those who are, well, they're seniors, they're not gonna benefit necessarily from Project 2, but the fact that this work is being done to benefit students like them and help them accomplish like everything they're accomplishing with all their hard work, so it's really exciting to be part of that movement. One of our co-founders, it's been amazing. Lynn and the microphone coordinating. So we're extremely excited to present our work.
No, I will. I mean, seeing the students here every time I'm in this building, in this room, it reminds me that this is why we've done all this work. Both the fundraising and the planning before that, because it's just an amazing school, it's an amazing community. You have fantastic students who bring so much every single day and fantastic faculty and staff who bring so much every day. There's magic in this building that most people don't get to see. I got a little glimpse of it during the Imagine planning and it chokes me up every single time. I'll stop. Who wants the check?
Let's accept the check first and then we will. Any other questions or comments before we call the roll? Okay. We'll call the roll.
Ms. Arkin. Mr. Arkin?
Oh, yes.
You don't want the money, Ms. Arkin? Mr. Hurst,
Yes.
Dr. Livingston,
Yes.
Dr. Odell,
Yes.
Mr. Bramless,
Yes.
Mr. Brisbane,
Yes.
and Ms. Winsley.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you.
I know, right? Because games are not gonna snuck out.
Yes.
It's such a fancy check. Maybe we should just find a bigger check.
Oh, sorry.
All of you in this picture, so just to let you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Sir, now without splitting out with me before you to go in the trunk.
Oh, yes. That's what he was just saying.
So next we will move into discussion items, and the first discussion will be our 2025 state report card. Dr. Johnson.
Okay, thank you, Audrey. I'm gonna ask my team to come forward. We have 3 people coming to the table to help. present. Just give me 1 second. Pull that up and go back a few slides there.
This is the first slide, where do you want me to go?
What's that?
This is the first slide, where do you?
Oh,
No. Should it be right here?
no. We'll make it work. So this is, yeah, it's like, you know what, we need to adjust our slide deck just,
Oh, you want to send me the new one, I can put it up?
yeah, let me just give me a second.
Okay.
Talk amongst yourselves. So I'm gonna send this to you, okay?
Okay.
Okay, you should have it. We'll get that adjusted after the meeting. I can share a few things kind of in general as we're on the side, but it's not yet, so it's perfect. Thanks, Lisa. Okay, our team's going to be talking about a lot of these slides in a little bit, but to get things started, I just want to share a few things. First, this is the I don't know, 3rd or 4th year that we've presented our school report card in this way. And it is the last time that we are going to present the report card that looks exactly like this, because the state has recently announced that it is has a proposed new state report card formula in the works. And there are several changes that we'll see next school year. And some of those changes are kind of foreshadowed in some of the information that we had in this report. You'll notice if you had a chance to see it beforehand, for example, that there is, for the first time in high schools, information about student growth in the 3 main academic areas, ELA, math, and science. We're really excited to see that. There are some other really important changes that they're looking to make. As you all may know, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Now that we're up, let's click over to the next slide, and I'll get into this the right way. So if we go to the next one, yes, thank you. The state awards school districts or gives school districts or school buildings for one of 4 different designations as a result of their achievement: exemplary, commendable, targeted support, or comprehensive support. The definitions for those are listed on this slide. You can have access to it. I'm not going to go through it in great detail. OPRF has been exemplary in the past. We are commendable this year. We'll explain that in a little bit. The key point that I want to bring up here is that the definition of an exemplary school in the state of Illinois is normative, meaning that it is determined as a top 10% of schools in the state. This has always been something that school districts have had a little bit of frustration with, because it kind of pits school districts against one another. We're excited to announce that next school year, the state of Illinois has a criterion-based system, meaning that there are targets identified for exemplary status. And if every single high school in the entire state meets those targets, every single high school will be exemplary. And so this isn't the time to really go into those in detail, but it does help to explain kind of where the state is leaning with some of this, and it'll come up in some of the information that we share in the next few slides. In this next slide, this is just meant to explain how the formula works in the state of Illinois. There are 5 different student achievement indicators: graduation rate, math proficiency, ELA proficiency, science proficiency, and English learner progress to proficiency. This is the 3rd year we've had enough students who've taken the test 2 years in a row to qualify in this that particular metric. And there are, in addition, 3 learning environment indicators: chronic absenteeism, 9th graders on track, and the percentage of students who complete the climate survey. We're going to go a little bit deeper into the climate survey data types, and you'll see not only that our students achieved it at a high rate, but how they rated and how our faculty rated us in that regard as well. All right, so with that as the background, I'm turning the next slide over to Dr. Exton.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Sure. All right, so Dr. Johnson already stated it, but just to say it again and then walk through each of these metrics. Our overall designation on the 2025 school report card is commendable. And the schoolhouse on the screen shows our overall index score of 91.79, as well as the metrics on all 8 indicators. So we earned full weight for 5 out of the 8 indicators. So let's walk through those. The ELA proficiency, which you see in blue, we earn the full weight for the math proficiency, which is in that orange or peach. We earn the full weight for the science proficiency, which you can see in gray in the upper right-hand corner. For the graduation rate, which is in purple, and the climate survey, which is in yellow. And Principal Parker is going to go over that more later, but we did see notable increases in that climate survey due to participation this year. We did score below the maximum potential weight for the indicators in the 9th grade on track. So we made notable growth there. That metric is most likely going to go away next year. But it's still important for us to really consider where our 9th graders are and continue to make progress on that indicator. The English learners' path to proficiency is in line green. We've actually seen some decrease in that indicator. We're going to go over that in a little bit. And then chronic absenteeism, which is in green, we've seen a slight increase, and we understand that there'll be changes to the way that absenteeism is reported on the state report card in the future as well. And that's been a challenging metric for everyone, I think, across the state over time. We'll see what direction the state goes. But for us, we continue to have attendance goals, which Principal Parker is going to talk about as well. Okay, so on to a little bit of what was already shared. This is OPRS index score of that 91.79, and that's on a 100-point scale. And as was already shared, the top 10% of schools are the ones that earn that exemplary designation from the state. For us, our 91.79 is an increase compared to last year. And a little bit of a celebration for us is that if the criteria would have stayed the same, we would have made exemplary status this year. But we're going to keep working to do better. We were just shy of earning that exemplary status with the new ratings this year. So you can see that large range of commendable schools is again something that all the school districts have been challenged by. And as we move to a criterion reference system, it really gives us a standard or a target that we can identify more clearly to hit in the future. Okay. So we're going to dig into some of the indicators now, or all of them actually. So the 4-year graduation rate does account for 50% of the summative designation. And we're reporting an all-time high, or at least since 2020, with a 97% graduation rate. Again, we are performing well above the state. And among all of our demographic groups, OPRF's graduation rate is above 90%. And that also in our various demographic groups is also well above that state average. For the roughly 3% of students who did not graduate, most of those students are continuing with IEP and special education services, and are the students who are served by our site program. So they're still with us and doing well, and will proceed to graduation at a later time. Okay, so we're gonna move into math proficiency, which again, we want to think about proficiency as achievement, and then we're gonna focus on math growth. So this is the part where we're gonna keep our energy up and stay together. So and that's for the three of us as much as it is for everybody else. Okay, so digging into that, the math proficiency counts for 7.5% of our summative designation. Our overall proficiency, and again, this is something that's new. Previously, the state would just report our scores on the college entrance exam or the state exam. The overall proficiency includes both ACT math and the DLM, and that's the dynamic learning maps. That is the assessment that is given to students who for whom the IEP team designates that they will learn from the essential standards and take that dynamic learning map assessment. So for the ACT plus the DLM, our overall proficiency as 64.1%. And notice that the state does not break this down into the new 4 levels. They just show, they just report on proficient and then not proficient. And then our ACT math proficiency, we have 40.5% proficient, 23.9% above proficient, which gives us a combined students who are proficient or above as 64.4. What's important to note, if you remember back to when we shared those proficiency levels, we talked about the importance of looking at how the state reports proficiency, but then the ACT college readiness benchmarks. So if you remember again, our overall math proficiency from the state is 64.4, but for the ACT math benchmark, the college readiness is 57%. So 57% if we're looking at that ACT. New to our report card again is reporting for our 9th grade population and our 10th grade. So our 9th graders take the pre-ACT 8-9 and our 10th graders take the pre-ACT Secure 10. The overall for grade 9, we had 33.2% were proficient and 31.1 were above proficient. So students proficient and above is a little over 64%. And that ACT, that pre-ACT 8-9 benchmark from ACT is 57%. So roughly 64% in comparison to 57%. For grade 10, we have 31.6% proficient and 30.5% above proficient. So our combined is roughly 62%. And the ACT secure benchmark, we had 59% of our students meet. So moving on from proficient into growth. And so what the state is reporting for us is student growth percentiles. And student growth percentiles are being used to describe student growth. The student growth percentile compares student growth to their academic peers in Illinois. So it's important to know that the statistics that you see on the screen are cohort data. And if we move to 9th grade, for 9th grade, the 2025 school cohort math student growth percentile of 65.7 is compared to the state's student growth percentile for mathematics of 50. And the state will basically always be at 50. So our grade, our ninth grade students achieved what would be considered excellent growth. So if you look at that chart over on the right, that is how the state is helping us determine our level of growth. And we can say that our students grew faster than 65% of comparable students in the state. So that's ninth grade. Our overall 10th grade students achieved what would be in that above average growth range. And our 10th grade students grew faster than 55% of comparable students in the state. And then moving to our 11th grade students, our 11th grade students grew faster than 53% of comparable students in the state. And that making their overall growth around average for their academic growth. If we just summarize very briefly disaggregated data, and of course there's much more to look at in that. Across the board in ninth grade math, all of our subgroups, so our student groups grew better than the state comparison groups. And all subgroups are in the excellent to above average range growth. For 10th grade, the subgroup performance ranges from above to below average range growth. And we perform closer to the state growth mean. And then for 11th grade, the students showed growth rates in the low to above average range. With some of our student groups who perform very high, hitting the ceiling. So if they hit that ceiling, then obviously we're not able to report the level of growth. Or able to show that. And then our low income, our students designated as low income and our English learners showed growth rates in that low range and actually below the state mean. So calling our attention to that and making sure that when we consider our tier 2 services and our tier 3, that we support those students. So basic summary of growth in math.
Can I just ask a quick question about that?
Yeah.
So is the growth comparing the same cohort of students, so the ninth graders to their former selves, or is it comparing the current ninth graders to current 10th graders? Like the growth between those two groups?
Current ninth graders to their former selves. Yeah.
Oh.
Ask a follow-up to that. So the pattern that just meets the eye there on slide 7 is that the trend is a little bit downward as they progress. Is that just simply because there's so much more room to gain in ninth grade and then there's less in upper grades? Why do we think that pattern looks like?
I think at this point, I don't think we know. So
Yeah.
this is the first year we've used an SGP for this test. I think that's a theory. There's, it's hard to understand because it's two different data sets. So it's growth from grade level to grade level, and it just depends on the skills that were gained. And so you have to think that the freshmen are being compared to the IAR, where the sophomores are being compared to the pre-SAT for this school year. This freshman will always be compared to the IAR, but the sophomores and juniors are compared to the pre-SAT this year. And in the future, they're going to be compared to the pre-ACT. So you're talking different measures. They claim this is test agnostic. However, I think that could be something to consider. But what I do think is that over time, we're gonna understand this metric better because we'll be able to compare grade level versus grade level and cohort versus cohort along the way, which will reveal sort of the patterns and if they remain pattern, if they were the trends and if it remains this way, or if it changes up. So I think the growth data is an exciting data point, but we don't really know much about it yet.
As we'll see later, continue to lag behind our peers in our ninth grade data point. And looking at this slide, how much do you feel it may be related to where students are when they come in to ninth grade versus, perhaps rigors or expectations that we have of ninth graders, to meet that expectation, or is we're seeing some good growth once they're here. So I'm just kind of curious as to how this fits into.
So can you clarify failing to meet what expectation?
We have roughly like 10%.
94% of that.
So the ninth graders on track, meaning that they 6% of students. Core classes. Peers, it's a larger percentage.
So since this is a growth metric and not a proficiency metric, what this is telling us is that kids are growing. And I think what the other part about this metric is we're gonna have to be careful around is that we'll have to understand this in context of proficiency. So grades measure something that have a lot of inputs to them, and test scores measure something that have different inputs. And so I think to try to hypothesize how those two are interacting right now on the spot, I'm not sure I could do that. I do know because, like I said, this is growth. And we have kids who come in really low and grow a ton and still are not proficient. So we have to understand who those kids are. We also have kids who come in at the ceiling, and because if they're at the ceiling, a quirk of the SGP is that the growth is really difficult to understand because it might not look like they grew a lot, but there's not a lot of runway. So to really understand the growth and the proficiency, and then eventually, since there are only 6% of kids who don't meet on track, it won't be that hard to understand. Are these proficient kids? And they could be. Are these kids who are not growing? Are these kids who are growing? And understand how those metrics correlate. But right now, I wouldn't be able to say that I do understand that.
Okay. So we're gonna move on to ELA. We'll do ELA proficiency and then move to ELA growth. So again, ELA proficiency also counts as 7.5% of the summative designation. Our overall ELA, which is ACT plus the DLM, is 78.9%. Again, it's not broken down into levels. And just our ELA proficiency, which if you remember from the previous presentation is English plus reading, is 46.8% proficient and 32.6% above proficient, and that combined number is 79.4%. The ACT ELA college readiness benchmark is 74%. So our students met that college readiness benchmark at 74%. We'll take a look at the pre-ACT 8-9 and the pre-ACT secure for ELA. So for ninth grade, we had 54.5% of our students being proficient and 29.5% above proficient. So proficient and above is 84%. And just to break this down from the ACT test, the pre-ACT 8-9 English for our students was 85% meeting. And the pre-ACT 8-9 reading was 59% reading. So that's definitely one that has our eye, that we're scoring higher in the English subtest, much higher than we are in that reading subtest. So that's something for us to dig in and really continue to look at further. For 10th grade, we had 47% of our students proficient and 34.6 above proficient. And so that gives us above and proficient at 81.6%. For the pre-ACT 10 secure English, it was 74% who met in English and 63% who met in reading. So the gap between those two subtests is a little bit smaller, but still interesting to us and something that we really want to look at as we move forward.
Okay.
Okay, no, I got it. No, actually, I want the growth. Yeah, no, there we go. Okay, all right. Okay, so taking a look at growth, our student growth percentile of for grade 9 of 70.9 represents excellent growth. Our grade 9 school cohort grew faster than 70.9% of comparable students in the state. That's excellent growth, and we're really proud of that. For 10th grade, our 10th grade school cohort achieved above average growth and at 57.8%. So again, you see a decrease though with ELA in that growth for grade 10. And then our grade 11 school cohort achieved above average growth with an SGP of 58.5. So we go from excellent to above average as we move from 9 to 11. And just summarizing some of the disaggregated student groups or subgroups, the grade 9 student growth in ELA outperformed the state in all categories, and the majority of student subgroups were in the excellent range, with one subgroup in the above average range. For grade 10, student subgroups range from the excellent to the average range, with most subgroups in the above average range. All subgroups outperform the state. And for grade 11, our student growth performance ranged from below average to excellent across the subgroups, with the majority of the above average range. Most subgroups outperform the state mean, with one at the mean and two falling below. Just a summary of growth and seeing a similar pattern again. Okay, so moving on to the science proficiency. Our overall science proficiency is at 73%. And just looking at ACT science, we have 51.6% who are proficient and 21.8% who are above, giving us a combined of 73.4. And we don't have that science ACT benchmark right now.
Oh, yeah.
And we can get that for you if you want that later.
Can I ask a question? So this is, I think, in all three categories about the proficiency, or probably the proficient plus above proficient percentages. Do you have an internal target, like a number where if OPRF students hit X, then you feel like you're meeting the proficiency target that you have set for the school, other than comparing to the state and comparing to the ACT benchmark? I'm just wondering if there's an internal target that we have as well.
A percentage of students that we'd like to see
in those categories, yeah.
No, I don't know that we really talked about that as a team.
This benchmark also just came out by the state, and so I think it's so new, so we've just learned about it and then transitioning to the ACT. We're also learning about the ACT benchmark, which some research and some statistical analysis, it is a more rigorous benchmark than the SAT. That's something that was understood when they went to it. So I think what we are also doing is adapting and norming ourselves to sort of a new assessment and how our students are performing. And so once we kind of understand that, and unfortunately, like 1 year of data isn't really going to reveal a lot of information of trends and patterns, that will come, but I think now that we have the state benchmark and understand how our students are performing in the ACT, we'll probably be able to be better informed about that moving forward with them.
Yeah, and I would add too, if you think about it now, we almost have there are 3 targets almost for each of these subtests now, because we have the state's 2 targets, and then we have the ACT benchmark sitting right in the center. So, okay. All right, so the English learner progress to proficiency, as I think Dr. Johnson said as we started out, this is really a moving target, because the students who are there's variability in the students who are tested every year, because it charts their progress on the access, and students qualify by having at least 2 consecutive years of scores on the access. So if you take a look at this chart, you can see the growth in our overall English learner population since the 22-23 school year. And then you can also see how the number of students qualifying has changed for us every year. And we'll have students in that group, and then students fall out of that group based on those 2 consecutive data points. Having said all that, and looking at where we are, so if last year we were at 59.34, and now we've had this decrease to 39.75. We know we have work to do with our English language population and supporting them. One of the things that we are undergoing right now is the state review of our multilingual services. And I will say that process is probably, it's going to be much more informative for us than this data point alone. And that looks at our programming, our assessment, our ratios of staff, and it's very detailed. And we'll present our data to the state in December, and then we will get our feedback and our points of growth, and then we'll move forward from there. Okay. And then
So
we'll
can I ask you just to clarify on 12? So you're saying that 23, 24 quite different from the prior year and this year. And you're basically still investigating the causes of why it's hard to improve on that rating.
I don't know if it's, I think we know a lot about areas of need. I think the variability in the numbers is, it represents that we have work to do and there's growth to occur. But the variability in the numbers is also in the change in who is tested over time as that population and that group expands.
So I was just gonna add to that, if I could. You compare this to the data that you were talking about recently, the ACT data, right? It's a pretty, even though they're different kids year in year out, it's a pretty consistent population overall. It's taking that ACT, you're taking the standardized tests year in year out. This population in our school is growing so rapidly. Right, so the systems that we have in place to support these kids are growing, we're building them as we go. As the board might recall, we approved new resources for this program a year ago, and some even the year before that. And so the program is developing as rapidly as the student population is. So we don't have the same just level of consistency and learned knowledge about how to it's really support this kid the best we can, but we're going after it.
Is it possible that a number of these students are either transitory, where maybe they came in for a couple of years and then they went out, and therefore you're actually measuring different combinations of kids from year to year?
Entirely measurable.
Oh, you are.
Yeah, we are.
That's a part.
But I want to be clear though, this is not a proficiency test, and so anytime, so that the qualifying students, the 20, 33, and 53. Each one of those numbers represents a single student who was here 2 years in a row. They took 2 tests. Yeah, but that's all that means, it doesn't make it.
And I guess my last question is, was there anything in these materials that showed how we're doing compared to other schools on this matter of English learners regardless?
It's in the state report card. I can pull it up too, but.
Is it in this deck?
No.
I don't believe so,
Um,
except for the comparative
Yeah.
slides, you know, the comparative school slides.
So what's your sense on how we're doing relative to other districts or other schools?
I would say that was something that was interesting because, what you'll see is that, most schools we're doing better, but most schools aren't doing well. Like we're doing, and that's what's frustrating about it. It's like, if you look at us comparative to the state, we're probably in the top third. But it seems like this indicator score isn't very strong for most schools.
I would say too, the larger your populations are of multilingual learners, the actual, sometimes, the more services and supports, that you can provide. And what we are really, looking at and is, how we provide, as when you think about the civics course that we brought forward, so that we could provide that for multilingual learners. We are continuing to look at what can we add so that the students can grow in their language acquisition and then also grow in their content learning. So, you know, as our population grows, we're adding services as we can.
So bottom line is these scores and the choppiness in this data, this isn't unusual for other schools who are serving this number of ELL kids.
We can look into that further, but we would suspect that that would be true.
Just a clarification on the data points, investigation. The overall English learner population, do they impact our designation, or is it the qualifying students?
It's just it's the
Just the students who qualify, it's their progress on the assessment. But you have to have the two
So it's not impacting necessarily your designation, but to Graham's point, 50%.
It is impacting,
That's right.
yeah, it is impacting the designation, but it's the students who take the test twice that are impacting it, not like you said, the overall population.
So if you think about ELA math, we're 7.5% of our designations is 5%.
yes.
Okay.
Last one.
Okay, all right, so for the ninth graders on track. So just to refresh everybody's memory, to be on track, students have to complete 10 semester courses and not earn more than 1 F in a core subject area. Our overall freshmen on track for 2025 is 94, roughly 94%, and is an increase for us. We're above the state average, which is 89.3%. And most of our student groups, so when we think about disaggregated data, show steady progress, and most notably with our Black students and our students with IEPs. With that being said, we continue to have persistent gaps among demographic groups and continued support within the core classroom tier 1 with tier 2 and tier 3 are needed. So that we can continue to keep our students on track. And of course, again, this metric will not be on the state report card. Sure.
Our next slide is regarding chronic absenteeism. As you will notice on this particular slide, we made a shift in the right direction, just not as much as we would like. So we did go down a percentage point to end in 2025 at 19%. So a lot of that gain, as we noticed, and that's listed in your appendix, is improvement with our Black students and in terms of the number of students who are able to improve their attendance over the school year. But we do recognize that this is a trending problem through the nation, not to make an excuse for it. I also want to point out that for the state, this is the second highest category for designation, second only to the 50% for graduation rate. So it tends to show the importance that this is having and something that we want to keep pressing on with the and be committed to our strategies. I've mentioned before to this group, when we talk about chronic absenteeism for the state, they typically look at that as 10% for the school year. And that would be about 18 absences over a full year. When you look at the practices we do here at our school, ours exceeds that in terms of how we monitor it. And that is because of just the pain point it tends to be for our community. So we have to work within that, as well as impressing the importance of students being in school, not just to earn a grade, but for the environment it creates within the school building to have students present. It enhances group work within the classroom and enhances voice for students, collaboration. It's more than just are they earning an A? And that is something that we are making sure that we communicate to our families.
A quick question on that.
Sure.
So first of all, I'm delighted to see it move modestly in the right direction. I think there are several things to feel good about in this report that the needle's moving in the right direction. I'm curious about, I know last year we were given insight into our peer districts and this metric, and we were amongst the highest reporting, if not the highest, among our peer districts. And I'm wondering where we're at right now. If we've seen our peer districts come up, if they continue to lower it, is there still a huge gap?
It's coming up in just a few slides.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
I just felt like a clarifying question.
Sure.
About like chronic absenteeism, because like, does that mean you're like completely at risk of like losing credit in classes, or is that just more like, oh, like now we're like monitoring?
Very good question, because we do that distinguishing thing here at our school. For the state, what they are measuring is just your, the amount you go over the 10% they perceive as appropriate. So when you think about our level, which is like at the 12 we talk about, the state for the year is at 10, and we are 12 per semester. So, and we're monitoring that, and we do different things for our chronic absenteeism. If you heard about us in terms of like the contracts and different things, yes, and we do it period by period, as opposed to looking at the whole thing for a student just in terms of your whole, yeah. But this is not about credit. Yep. Very good question.
Okay, so I'll go to this, Tim. Are we aware of any schools that post-pandemic have managed to really bring their absenteeism rate down? We're looking at a 5% decrease year-over-year, that's great. But high schools that are seeing a 10 or 20 or more % decrease in absenteeism. Anybody in our region with that?
I have not, and when I go to the West Suburban Conference meetings amongst the principals, we are all trying to share ideas as to what we could do in terms of helping with the chronic absenteeism rate. Everyone is experiencing some issues in terms of how to change it, mostly because it's one of the factors that the school doesn't directly control ourselves. Like, we don't necessarily control getting the students here every day for every class. And so we have to work in partnership with our families to make sure that we are impressing upon them the importance of being in school every day and what is missed when that doesn't happen.
I know that, the state designations just overall absenteeism, but I do know that they break it out between excused, non-excused absences as well, I think.
They do not actually. And though every school and every district has a designation for what is excused and what is not, absence is absence.
Do we know if our excused versus non-excused absences largely follows kind of the same trend, or versus our peers, or is it kind of do we see us as outlier unexcused? Right, I'm more concerned about unexcused absences. I can't control when kids sick or gets sick at college, right? But not coming to school and not having a reason to come to school. That's something that warrants attention.
Yes, definitely. And I have a theory about it. I'm not gonna share it because it's not fact, but I'm actually, from comparison of some data of ours from a couple of years ago, and data that's not in there. I think I have an idea of that, but I will get more information first before I share it as a fact.
Maybe you're alluding to the thing I'm wondering about, which is so pre-pandemic years, 18 and 19, you're right around 16%. Then you have an increase during pandemic, 20 and 21, predictably that goes up.
Yep.
But then, interestingly, the next 2 years, 22 and 23, it goes down significantly. And now, the last 2 years, 24, 25, you're back up to the same as the pandemic level. So how did we have these 2 good years followed by 2 years that effectively replicate what was going on in the pandemic?
So I am going to say that those 2 years do not accurately reflect the total data that should have been in those 2 years. And there has been a correction that was made, which is why 24 and 25 ended where they were. And that is part of my theory because of the subset of data that I believe was not there. It may be part of what Mr. Gerson was just referring to. So, but I have to tie all these pieces together because that came to me as I've been sitting and mulling over this. I've been listening to the conversations.
You got a good cliffhanger.
Yes. Yes. More to come. Yes. Okay. The next one, which I do have some pride in terms of, and not that I'm not proud of all of it, but this one in particular, as you can see from the colored squares here, just as a visual, our school rose to an organized school, but out of the partially organized status. And I think in my 32 years, I've not seen anyone be like move in these boxes. And so this is exciting for me. I have, again, some information as to how that happened. And then it excites me about moving forward and doing this too. We had an 8.8% increase in student response rate. And that is because when we heard about the 95% participation rate that is necessary to get your points in this area, then we said we can get that. And that is exactly what we worked on last year. So you will notice that there are more student voices in this data, which to me, we always ask with the survey, like, who are our respondents? And is it a good distribution? Well, now this is because 96.5% of our students answered this survey for us. And that moved us, as you can see, in some of our areas.
Really quick question.
Yeah.
What's the, is it the same criteria for the other 2 categories for teachers and parents? What's the minimum amount to get maximum?
It's only the students
Oh, it's
that are
just
counted.
students that-
Yes, the parents are on a whole separate one, and then the teachers, we do reach a rate and we will have our teachers do it, but they're not inclusive of getting the designation. It's only the students. Yeah, very exciting. And as you can see in this slide, and one thing to explain about this one for this year, the state renormed the survey, and then they retroactively recalculated the 2024 scores to be as you see here. So if you looked at our report from last year, these 2024 scores are different because it was renormed by the state. But they did that so we had these 2 years in comparison so that you can see what happens for 2025. But I want to point to specifically supportive environment and the 8-point jump that we did there. Which brings me a sense of pride as I'm thinking about comments I hear from our students when I'm speaking to them. And hearing that they believe that our environment is getting more supportive, and even more, welcoming. And now I see my scores reflecting that a little bit more, so excited to see those continue to move forward, but, this is particularly, in the others, you can see it's a little bit closer for each of the ratings, but that one is one that the students particularly impact with their answers, because some of the other ones are teachers plus students. And I'm really happy to see that rising with the number of students replying, responding to the survey also growing, so.
So I just want, I mean, this was a major pain point last year, the student response rate, so it's great to see this get to the beyond the 95% threshold. Even though it doesn't affect the you know, the way that the points, the percentages are allotted, I still can't wrap my head around why teachers and parents, why we're not reaching the average Illinois percentage. It just doesn't seem.
I can't respond to the teacher one, and that is because last year they changed the range of dates for when the teacher survey was available. We always give our teachers time within the school day to do it. Last year, that did not happen, and then it ran into them having to make sure they did it on their own time. And that affected that survey, but it was only because it didn't get released at the time we had it planned to have the new survey. So my hope this year is that it's released in the normal window so that we can make sure that teachers have access.
Does it ever coincide with professional development?
That's exactly, so in March, February is when I had it planned right now, and it's written in our schedule. And that is without Linda Parker having any influence on the state to know if they will have it released during that time. So I've given the time into the professional development schedule, and I'm hopeful that they will keep their schedule the way they have in the past.
Oh, that's good to hear. The parents one I'd like to hear more about, because that is really low, 6% less than the average.
And we have done incentives where I offered things to the students, if you, and it wasn't just your parent had to do it, if any parents did it, I was going to do something for students, and I just couldn't move that marker. I think some of that might be because parent data is not reflected in this. For us, it comes separately and it doesn't come within this report, and so I don't know how much parents value or know how much it matters if they're not seeing it in these counts.
Okay, the next few slides have been alluded to already are comparative districts, and I'll go through these next four. As you may recall, a year ago was the first time we did comparative districts in this way, and the idea was to kind of really norm ourselves around districts that are like us or districts that we aspire to perform, more like. And this first one is in that latter category. So this is a list of exemplary high schools that are like us in size, okay? Meaning that each school here has to have at least 2,000 students. I'm gonna give a little caveat. One of these school districts has like 1,969 students, so bear with me on the rounding. But there are 74 high schools in the state that have at least 2,000 students. Of those 74 schools, 11 have earned exemplary status. They're listed on the right-hand side. 4 or 5 of these were not on the list last year. A few came off, a few have been added. So you see them all listed. Okay. How did we do in the 8 indicators we just gone over? How did we do in comparison to these schools? The next slide tells us. This slide is color coded. So green means that OPRF fell in the top third in comparison to these schools. Yellow is in the middle third, and pink is in the bottom third in comparison to these other districts. So let's just quickly go over this. What does it tell us? My quick takeaway is that in the academic indicators, graduation rate, ELA proficiency, science proficiency, even math proficiency, which is 9th, is really right there, kind of in the middle bandwidth or in the higher end compared to these exemplary schools. In short, OPRF students perform pretty well in comparison to their exemplary peers in these academic indicators. But to the question we were asked before by Jonathan, Take a look at chronic absenteeism, English learner progress to proficiency. That goes to a question from Graham a moment ago. Ninth graders on track, we've talked about that a lot. Those are areas where OPRF is struggling in comparison to their exemplary peers. There are a number of different reasons for that. And sometimes it's, it's hard to tease out. One thing I will say is that the challenges, particularly of an English learners population in the school, are very loud. All right, so not all English learners are the same, right, across different communities. And so that's part of it. There are a variety of other factors in this. And you go to the 5 essentials indicators. Not all of the schools give 5 essentials. Some have opted for an alternate climate survey. In fact, I guess only New Trier Township has an alternate survey. But it involved families, top third, that rates high, but effective leaders, ambitious instruction, and collaborative teachers, and supportive environments. They're all in that bottom third in comparison to our peer districts, or to our exemplary districts. I will say that as far as the 5 essentials data is concerned, the kind of bandwidth, there's one school here that really stands out. If anybody's interested really in the 5 essential survey, wants to see how different schools perform on that. John Hersey, I think is what it is. Goodness, they really have done incredibly well in the 5 essential survey. With that kind of outlier, there's a real tight bandwidth for these schools. So the range between the top third and the bottom third is incredibly large in the school. So now let's take a look at the next set of comparables. This is trying to compare other schools to us that are like us in other ways, right? Using more variables. We start with at least 2,000 students. That brings us down to those 76 schools. 76 high schools have at least 2,000 kids in the state. Then we went to a measure of financial effort. And so we narrowed that pool of 2,000 or 76 schools by those schools that fund whose per pupil spending is a third lower than, or up to a third higher than OPRF's amount of $26,000. That brings that total down to 49 different schools. But we need to narrow it down even more, and so we have this little proxy for diversity here. And so for every demographic group in which we have 5% in this school, all right? I lost my sense there. Every school in this list has to have at least 5% of any demographic group in which we have at least 5%, but it has to have no more than 200%, okay? And that brings that down to 8. Unlike the change that we saw in the previous set of group of comparative districts, this group did not change at all from last school. I played with the percentages a little bit to see if we could, get a wider group of what it would do. But if I brought this number up to 10%, but that bottom number of 10%, it would move down to just 2 schools. There aren't many schools in the state of Illinois that look like OPRF and all of its diversity. And therefore, it's really hard to kind of get that quality comparative group defined well. So how do we do in comparison to these schools? A lot more green when you take a look at these numbers. There was a question earlier about how our chronic absenteeism compares to other schools. You can see that all of those academic indicators as well as chronic absenteeism are within the top third. English learners path proficiency is right there in the middle, and 9th graders on track is 7th. Out of the 8 schools there, 9 if you include us. And so that really kind of speaks to the challenge of that particular metric. 5 essentials indicators are all within the mid-range there. I should note, we're getting to the point actually breaking this out by thirds with the 5 essentials where it kind of loses a little bit of its meaning, frankly, because what do I know? There are 1, 2, 3 of the 8 high schools we compare ourselves to don't even give the 5 essentials survey. So you're really down to just a total of 6, including us, who do in this group. So in a kind of really high level, OPR compares incredibly well to schools that are like us as far as these diversity and financial effort indicators tell us. And we do very well in the academic indicators for the exemplary schools, and we have some work to do in some of the others, more kind of school engagement and groups. So with that said, I'm going to pause our presentation there. The next few slides are really a summary of things we've already noted throughout this conversation. So I know there have been a lot of questions throughout. I think that's great, but if there are any more, we'll be willing to.
I just want to pause for a moment and just for our student delegates, we thank you for staying, and it's after 9 o'clock, so if you need to leave, please feel free to do so. And are there any other questions for Dr. Johnson or the team?
I have one more. So you mentioned that the 9th graders on track metric is going to drop out of the designation. So I guess it's a 2-part question. My main question is it replaced by some? Yeah, so 2 parts. Will that be replaced by something similar? And will we continue to monitor that since it's clearly an opportunity for improvement?
I don't think that's being replaced with something similar. I think it's just a metric that they're not finding the value in. And then we can come back and share as we learn more about what that means.
Fred has his hand up.
Fred.
Yeah. Right.
Hello. I have a couple just observations. First of all, thank you. This is an excellent in-depth report. I really appreciate it. However, just looking at this kind of from a pretty high perspective, I almost feel like we're in the movie Catch-22, because it seems that we continue to increase, but we still stay behind. And so, and I know I understand that next year things are going to change. But I did make a comment last year. When we look at our peer schools, in the exemplary schools, and I look at and see 3 schools out of 5 that come, 3 schools come from one district that has a 5 school district, which is District 211. I'm very familiar with it. Used to live in that district. And they work very, very hard on this and, and the 5 essentials. The woman's name who coordinates it is Dr. Danielle Hauser. She's their director of student services. And I would hope that somebody would pick up the phone and give her a call, because their communities are not that much different than ours. I actually think that we probably are a little more affluent, and we probably may even score higher on the top ends of things. But I think we ought to find out what some of our comparative districts are doing. What are they doing in terms of chronic absenteeism? What is their language, their English learning program look like? And I think that some collaboration might give us some insight. So that's really again, thank you for the report, and that's just my comments.
I could build on Fred's comment. I think Fred was talking about the set of districts or schools on slide 18, which aren't peers, but rather those are the exemplary schools. And we're on this slide 18, we're comparing ourselves to the best. So my question was going to be, all right, how do you use this information? How do you learn from what they're doing? And among the individual metrics, which ones are you closest to the mean or the median of these best schools? And therefore, is that where you focus? You know, you've got all these different levers to pull, which are the right levers you're gonna pull first? And what can you learn from these districts and apply here? So I guess in that sense, I'm echoing Brett's comment. With regard to slide 19. There was a methodology used to identify comparable districts. And I definitely agree with the size piece, and spending per student, I think, is a reasonable metric. The diversity thing, I wonder how useful that is, and I was wondering if perhaps percentage of IEP and percentage of free and reduced lunch might be a more precise way to find a comparable comparison set. That's just food for thought when we do this next time, but I'm really more interested in what strategies and tactics are gonna be undertaken to learn from what the quote unquote best are doing and apply it here.
Any other questions for comments for the team? I just want to echo my thanks as well in terms of just the level of analysis that you've done and insights that you provided on the report. Agree that there are always opportunities for learning, and I happen to though very personally appreciate trying to find schools that are as diverse as our school. There are not a lot of schools that are like OPRF, and there are some unique advantages and challenges that come with that. And so I do appreciate that being looked at, even as we continue to try to determine, what else we might be able to learn and take from some of the comparator schools that we've looked at.
Thank you. Thank you, please.
Okay, and next up is our summer 2026 capital improvement projects. So we'll just have the team switch out.
Appreciate our partners from Gilbane who have been waiting all this while for the CIP work to come up. Coming up is Tony Arbogast, and role from talk about our summer work and where we're going to go from here. So Tony, go ahead.
So back in February, we brought the scope of the summer 26 work to the board for approval. And talked through the plans we had initially been thinking about for summer construction for the upcoming school year. When we took it out to bid, we did so in a series of alternates to see where costs would come in. And really, we're looking to stay on plan with the exception of a couple changes. It would be a cost reduction of just over $1 million. Using the word reduction and not savings because some of this work would just be deferred down the line. Really, the two reasons for the deferrals, as we started to go through our plan and we read it out where the bids came in at, some of the partial classroom renovations, it really didn't make sense as we'd only be doing part of the classroom. It made more sense to align that to hit the entire classroom at one time. That happened to a couple of the spaces. The big one is the field house roof. And then in investigation of the roof, it as we started talking through with the company that had been our lowest bidder, looking at just the scope of what that work would look like would have a big disruption to summer programming. We would be talking about not being able to access the field house for a long portion of the summer. In talking with our building and grounds department, Kurt's confident that the condition of the roof, where we have a couple small leaks, we can patch that and keep things moving without being at risk or detriment to the postponement. And it gives us really a little bit extra time now to align better to when the project 2 space would be open. We'll have alternate alternate areas that programming can be done. And then also look and see, can we think of some other value engineering type ideas for the field house roof? One other thing to note too, included in the bid is the contract for Gilbane to manage the summer work. Finding that to be a really strong relationship. And then knowing that this will be our first summer after Mr. Bergman retires, and he's online right now is Allison from FGM. Along with finalizing project 2 to make sure that that stays on schedule, we would recommend retaining Gilbane services for this project as well.
Any other question?
Do we put the management services up to bid as well, or just
Management services is, it doesn't go out to bid, it's a specialty service. You would go to RFP for that. It would be uncommon to have different companies in the building managing different projects. We have found a great relationship with Gilbane, even in terms of where the estimations are coming in for CIP. It's been within the last couple of years that they've helped in the planning aspect of the CIP before we go out to bid. Feel like we've got a really strong grasp of the work that goes in before we bring it to the board, and then the quality of the results of the projects we've done with them have been great. So looking at the numbers they put forward, very consistent with where we've been. So we did not take them out to RFP at this time.
So I'm not for this specific issue necessarily, but in general, I'd like to make sure that we are, we've just kind of gone through and we are still in that process of setting our budget for the next year. And all of our proposed scenarios did involve some cost cutting in some degree. So I'd just like to, if at all possible, administration take that under management to for like third contracts or professional services when we do have opportunities to make sure that we are partners, but also we want to make sure that we're being
Yep, I fully agree 100%. I think as much as I really value our partnership with Gilbane, had Jerry come to me and said, we're going to see a 10% increase or something this year in our fees, we would have to have a difficult conversation on the back end. And I feel comfortable saying that with him right here. It's certainly with all areas, it's something we consider. When is the right time to go out to bid? Are we with the right partners? Is there a risk of the expression I use sometimes is stepping over the dollar to pick up the quarter, where we find somebody that maybe is a half point cheaper, but then we've got 10% change orders that come in. So definitely all that is considered in the process.
Hello, I have a couple questions. Tony, did I hear you correctly in saying that this is going to be the last construction summer of Jeff's tenure? Is that what I heard?
Actually, it'll be the first construction summer without Jeff.
Without Jeff, okay.
Just before the construction kicks off.
Okay, so here's my question and my thought process. All right, years ago, we had outsourced our construction management services, and at the time we used Henry Brothers. All right, the board at the time, and this was even before I was on the board. I was elected in 2015. The board at the time decided to bring that construction management, the construction management in-house, and created the position that Jeff now has. is an in-house construction manager. And we really haven't had, since that time, I don't believe we've designated a construction management company. Now, so my question is, where are we going with this moving forward? All right. Obviously, I think that as a district, and I certainly as one board member am very happy and satisfied with what we get, is service and product from Gilbane. I think they're doing an outstanding job. At this point in time, very happy with them. But should this be something that is with Jeff's leaving, is this something that we should be taking another look at? Is how all of this is structured, right? And because I think there has been, I don't want to use the word confusion, but there has been from time to time some, a little chaotic episodes between, between what is our in-house construction manager doing and, what are we paying these outsourced firms to do?
I'll speak to a couple of the points there. Number one, in terms of how the relationship will look going forward, with Jeff's retirement and with Gilbane, that's something we are actively reviewing internally right now. The way I best describe it is making sure that we're not just valuing the role, but the value Jeff brings to this district and everything he has done in his tenure here. And making sure that if we continue forward with that role, that we have somebody that brings a similar value. Because Jeff's done a tremendous job. Just as a reminder, this is similar to what we have done since the projects that started last year, just to really, I believe I described it last year, we're self-insuring a little bit to make sure that both in-house and externally, we've got our eyes on project 2 and the CIP work that happens. So we're not so focused on the completion of project 2 that we're getting unsatisfactory work in CIP or fall behind schedule there. I apologize if there's been confusion externally. I think internally we've been pretty clear on the roles of everybody. But it's with a really positive, successful completion of our summer work last summer, and are following the same model that we did last year.
Thank you.
Questions? I will put anything for our students, so we can go get them. I don't think so. Thank you all.
I was gonna make a joke about Jeremy monitoring our construction projects and meetings. I forgot it. So I missed my moment.
Thank you on behalf of our past president, Tom Kosky, for bringing back the Sam shirts.
Oh, as soon as I got to work today, I'm like, I wonder if it's gonna pop again. I should have had it for sustainability earlier in the week, but.
So moving into just our last few items, one is board governance. So we do have an update of the board atlas. Thank you, Graham, for sitting that, and Graham can email out with some of the updates. So take a look if you have questions. It has updated demographics. It has our updated goals. I think a few more items on the finance side, but it is posted. And so are there any questions from the atlas? What was posted? There are.
Okay, can I just say one thing, which is, I don't know about this, I'm just thinking out loud. But if you look at the atlas and then the peer school, I know those are financial peer districts in there, but those really don't perfectly align with the peer schools as they were selected for the academic benchmarking, and I wonder if it's worth a conversation at some point to understand whether it would make sense to have one set of peers or maybe two sets of peers, but just a little bit more of a process around how we're
Around the peer.
aligning the peer districts
Yeah, I
and
think-
reporting on the peer districts.
Where I'm putting a slide, do you want to just talk about our financial peer districts versus,
So, I think especially in consultation with CFC, I actually feel pretty strongly that our financial peer districts are our financial peer districts.
Yeah.
Because it's based on not just size, but also AV, labor market. A lot of things that are really about the financial circumstances of the district. I'm gonna guess that Greg feels equally strongly about what he would call his academic peer schools or comparison schools, which are gonna have actually a different set of criteria. Yeah, so for that reason, as far as the atlas goes, when it comes to talking about fiscal matters, I always try to be real careful about saying these are specifically financial peers. Now, having said that, there's no harm in sort of flagging where overlap exists. That could be kind of interesting, and maybe those are skills we look even deeper at, so maybe that's.
Kathleen, is your concern about there being confusion or?
It's not really a concern, really just more of an observation. I do know that the process by which the financial peer districts were identified was quite an elaborated process within CFC and beyond. And I do recognize that the academic peers, there's also a process to identify those academic peers. Maybe we just have two sets of peer districts. But we may wanna just call them academic peer districts or financial peer, or those are schools, not districts also. So yeah, maybe we can just be a little more careful with the language. I think it could potentially be a little.
So that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we won't go into this, but just for your information, so the parent report was included in the packet, and then getting to just our various community reports. Just to do a quick roundtable, I'll kick off with iGov. I just posted a report today from our meeting on Saturday. And the main topic of conversation was having Cheryl Potts with the community health board come and speak, which was actually very helpful and informative to just remember that as a resource with the community and even the work they already do with D200 and so many other groups. CFC, Kathleen Graham, you also report out about that, any highlight, things to highlight?
No, I mean, this is just to re-highlight what was already in the email, but I think we did have a really productive discussion about changing a little bit the voting composition of the CFC. So that only the community members on CFC would be voting members. The way the charter is written currently, all 9 members are voting members, including the 2 board members and the members of the administration, including Tony and others. And then there was also some actually, we realized you can only serve, I think, 8 consecutive terms. All voting members could serve 8 consecutive terms. So for example, after 8 years, Tony would no longer be able to be a member of CFC, which is something we probably should want to come to pass.
I don't know if you disagree.
I love that.
I think we need Tony. So those changes are in the works of CFC, and the revised charter will be coming to the board at some point. Another cliffhanger. And then the more to come on the discussion about evidence-based funding model as well.
Can I ask a follow-up question about that conversation about changing the mission of CFC? I'm really curious where the idea of voting even comes from for CFC. It's not a decision-making body. So I'm just wondering if there's a historical reason or if there's a legal reason why we would ever even have votes.
So the original charter was written in 2021. And I think, at least as far as I've been on the CFC, nobody really dusted that off and said, let's revisit just to make sure it all makes sense. That's when we learned, or at least I did for the first time, that actually the voting members are not just the community, the 5 citizen members, but also a couple of administrators and 2 board members. So we're changing it so it's just the citizens voting. Now, your question is, why is there voting at all?
Yeah.
You are correct that it is just an advisory committee. However, we still want some way to sum up what is the advice or recommendation of the committee. For that reason, we want those 5 members to actually vote so that you can say the committee decided X, Y, Z or recommends X.
I think this may not be the right moment to talk about it, especially if the revised charter is gonna be coming to us. That's probably the moment, but I'll just put a button on this. For my money and for my use as a board member, the vote really has very little value. What I really do value a lot is the expertise and the thinking behind the consensus. So and to the extent that this is going to continue to be discussed at CFC, I would really encourage you to reconsider the voting aspect and consider bolstering the analysis that's provided to the board, the thinking, that's provided to the board. We have moments as a board where we don't take a vote, but we do reach a consensus. And I would think that CFC could do the same thing. If it's not unanimous, that would be really interesting to me as a board member. That there was a split. We didn't reach a consensus, and here's why. Here's the analysis of both sides. I think a much more robust explanation, provided to us, that would really help me in my thinking. Just a vote doesn't really tell me anything.
I think, well, you're gonna say something.
Go ahead.
Well, I think we're definitely with you on robust analysis, digging into issues and initiatives. And I think that's where CFC is going to, if it's not already there. And also providing or availing itself more often to the board to explain, here's how we looked at a problem, that we analyze this, that, and the other. And I would also agree that, with or without voting, I think that kind of enhanced loop back to the full board is now its new way of operating.
Well, so for example, with the levy, presented 4 scenarios to the board. But that's, he didn't just bring one scenario to us, right? He brought the multitude of options that were discussed, right? So I'm still thinking, well, we're still getting that whole view, right? There are alternative, there are alternative opinions or alternative proposals.
Yeah, and there's even references there to CFC coming and speaking to the board, providing reports to the board. And I told CFC, hey, I think the board's really interested in hearing more. So I think there's going to be more situations where CFC members come and talk with example. But you're right. You got all the scenarios, even though their recommendation was 4.
Yeah, we saw that 2.5 years ago when the funding decision for Project 2, as I recall, CFC came to the board and was really instrumental in providing the background detail. So, and I think that was helpful.
And it doesn't always have to be just those huge momentous things. It could be other things that are important and they can come periodically and speak to us.
I just want to add that actually the change to the voting membership really helps with exactly what you're talking about, that because all 9 members of the CFC were identified as voting members, it created an Open Meetings Act conflict where no more than 2 people at a time could be in conversation about financial matters, including the board members. So for example, Graham wouldn't be able to sit down with 2 members of the CFC or Tony and the chair of the CFC to have a conversation for Open Meetings Act reasons, which changing the voting membership alleviates. And then also in terms of why vote at all, just simple things like, should we adjourn the meeting or should we approve the minutes?
That's for Robert's rules reasons.
Yeah.
So wouldn't eliminating voting altogether the OMA issue?
It's a board committee. And so as a result of being a board committee, there are, in order to eliminate the OMA, it had nothing to do with the number of the committee or any of that. It has to do with the fact that by policy, it's a board committee. It would have to be shifted from a board committee to a superintendent's committee. And then you lose the OMA, but the value at the time, the context of the reason why it's shifted, because back when we had an advisory, financial advisory, FAC it was a superintendent's committee, and the thinking this time around was for transparency's sake to do those conversations in public. So everyone can kind of see these deliberations as much as possible. And if it's a board committee, there's got to be a level of vote, even if it's just around those technical matters of the agenda.
Now, I think preserving those structures has value, preserving the transparencies, the postings of the agendas and all that stuff. We want to continue that.
Any other committee updates or highlights from anyone?
So we had a very well attended community council meeting last week. Dr. Esther and Mr.
Yeah, you got it.
Presented on OPRF-CTE and had a great dialogue. I think it was probably 20 parents present. That sound right?
Yeah, maybe a little longer. Yeah,
maybe a little more. I mean, which is pretty good for. I don't recall that many.
Not for one reason.
So and we had a very robust discussion around the current state of CT, the future of CT. It was really good. We also had our first collaboration for early childhood education IGA meeting at Village Hall, and which the first meeting is typically just an overview of the annual report from the CDC, and it's always great. It's always a great presentation and great discussion. IGA working group and offshoot of the work with CDC continues. We have a meeting tomorrow. And that's been exciting.
Anyone else? And finally, are there any future agenda items? Hearing none, I, Audrey Williams-Lee, move to adjourn at 9:42 p.m. And second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We adjourn. Thank you all.
Yes, sir.